The most prestigious award show in Hollywood, the Oscars. Believe it or not, these celebrities have been banned from attending for their bad behavior. Will Smith famously went viral after slapping Chris Rock at the 2022 Oscars. Who can forget that, right? Smith attended the ceremony with his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, and the two sat together and waited to see whether he'd won the Best Actor award for his role as Richard Williams in the tennis biopic King Richard. Although Smith won Best Actor for King Richard, Chris Rock's G.I. Jane joke about Jada dampened the moment and led to Smith slapping the comedian, then only to return to his seat and yell at Chris to keep his wife's name out his mouth. And he said it twice, so you just know he was serious. Now, the US stream attempted to mute this moment, but the slap aired fully in other countries across the world. Smith tried to apologize during his acceptance speech and told audiences, that love will make you do crazy things. Now, despite this, Smith resigned from the Academy and released a statement acknowledging his public attack on Rock, accepting full responsibility. The Academy actually confirmed that Smith was actually banned from their events for 10 years. Smith, was due to actually present the Best Actress award in 2023, but Halle Berry and Jessica Chastain replaced him. Smith cannot return to the Oscars until 2033. Will Smith being banned from the Oscars for 10 years is a shocking outcome from, one of the most controversial moments in Oscar history. But there is, some question about how much the ban will actually hold up over the next 2 decades. While there are a lot of critics who have spoken out against Smith's behavior at the Oscars, it would be ridiculous to suggest that he is in the same category as criminally convicted people like those of whom we do not speak of, but they rhyme with Marby Mimebeam and Smil Smosby. Now, it is quite clear those people will never have a career in Hollywood ever again, even if they don't end up serving, long prison sentences. However, in the case of Smith, Hollywood has already begun to embrace him once again. There was some question about, how the fallout of the infamous slap would affect Smith's career, but the box office success of Bad Boys 4 helped establish his comeback. When more time passes and the incident fades a little more from memory, Smith could make a return to the Oscars before his ban ends, so we'll have to wait and see. But as for now, he will not be in attendance of this year's ceremony. Established actor Richard Gere, whose filmography has included titles such as An Officer and a Gentleman, Pretty Woman, First Night, and American Gigolo, was actually banned from the Academy in 1993. Gere was issued a 20-year ban after he gave a speech while he presented the award for Best Art Direction. As Gere addressed the audience, he decided to go off speech and he used his platform to discuss the issues in Tibet and called out the leader of the Chinese Communist Party at that time. Gere told viewers that they needed to allow people to live as free, independent people again. The Academy found his speech controversial and Richard Gere was banned from presenting at the Oscars and future ceremonies for 2 decades. However, the actor still attended as a guest in 2003 alongside his Chicago co-stars. Chicago received an incredible 13 Oscar nominations and won 5, which included Catherine Zeta-Jones for Best Supporting Actress and producer Martin Richards for Best Picture. Gere returned to the ceremony after his ban was lifted in 2013 to introduce the Best Song nominee, Everybody Needs a Best Friend, performance by Norah Jones from the TED soundtrack. Now, Richard Gere's, Oscar ban was technically lifted in 2013, but the actor hasn't made any appearances at the ceremony in the years since. However, this isn't too surprising because, considering Gere hasn't been in too many movies lately since then, so no shock there. Oliver Stone, the legendary director who's known for his provocative films like Platoon and Savages, but what you might not know is that Stone was banned from the Oscars after he got into a fight with a producer at the 1996 ceremony. Apparently, Stone had a few too many drinks and got into an argument with the producer who was working on one of his films. The argument escalated into a physical fight and Stone was escorted out of the ceremony by security. According to reports, Stone had been drinking very heavily throughout the evening and became increasingly agitated as the ceremony just went on. He eventually got into this argument with the producer who was working on one of the films, and the argument just escalated and things got a little physical and handsy. Now, Stone was escorted out of the ceremony by security and he was subsequently banned from attending the Oscars forever, so he will not be in attendance this year. Mel Gibson was banned from the Academy Awards. Gibson was banned from the Oscars back in 2010 after he made a series of anti-Semitic and racist remarks during a drunken tirade. According to Winona Ryder, she claimed in an interview that Gibson made homophobic and anti-Semitic jokes to her at a party back in the 90s. She said, "I remember like 15 years ago, I was at one of those big Hollywood parties and he was really drunk. I was with my my friend who happens to be gay. He made a really horrible gay joke, and somehow it came up that I was Jewish. He said something about oven dodgers, but I didn't get it. She added, I never heard that before. It was just this weird moment. I was like, he's anti-Semitic and he's homophobic. No one believed me. A spokesperson for Gibson actually issued a statement denying her accusations that said that, and said that she lied about it over a decade ago when she talked to the press, and that she's lying about it now. Also, she lied about him trying to apologize to her back then, allegedly. He did reach out to her many years ago, apparently to confront her about her lies, and she refused to address it with him. Ryder issued a response to that, wishing Gibson well in the future. She said, I believe in redemption and forgiveness and hope that Mr. Gibson has found a healthy way to deal with his demons, but I am not one of them. Around 1996, my friend Kevin O'Coin and I were on the receiving end of his hateful words. Ryder added, it is a painful and vivid memory for me. Only by accepting responsibility for our behavior in this life can we make amends and truly respect each other, and I wish him well on this lifelong journey. Roman Polanski. Polish director Roman Polanski was also officially expelled from the Academy back in 2018, although he hadn't attended the ceremony in the decades before this. But in 1978, Polanski left the United States after pleading guilty to having essayed a minor. Although he had learned that the judge would likely offer him a plea bargain, Polanski fled and exiled himself to Europe. In the year following these events, Polanski continued his career in Europe despite further allegations against him being made. Now, during his career in the United States, Polanski received 5 Academy nominations, but actually only won once, which was Best Director for The Pianist. Although reports about him were public knowledge, Polanski received a standing ovation at the 2003 Academy Awards. Polanski did not accept his Oscar in person, so Harrison Ford actually took it and presented it to him 5 months later at the Deauville Film Festival in France. Now, despite the allegations, Polanski received Oscar nominations for The Pianist and Tess after his exile, but wasn't expelled from the Academy until the organization actually reflected on his actions decades later, so he will not be there. And Adam Kimmel. Cinematographer Adam Kimmel's filmography included movies like Never Let Me Go, Jesus' Son, and Lars and the Real Girl. Now, despite his busy career, which began in 1987 with the music video for Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues and Kirsty MacColl, Hollywood was unaware that Kimmel was a registered offender. Kimmel's crimes happened before and after he joined the Academy's cinematography branch in 2007, and reports against him ranged from 03 to 010, and in 2020, Variety published an expose about Kimmel, which contained allegations that stated Kimmel essayed someone multiple times back in 2003. Now, Kimmel pleaded guilty in 2004 and was sentenced to 10 years of probation and listed on the essay offender registry. Now, in 2010, the same year that he worked on Never Let Me Go, he allegedly actually committed similar crimes against another minor. He was arrested for 4th-degree essay and failing to register as an offender in Connecticut. When the organization was asked why Kimmel was allowed to join in the first place, they replied that their membership was granted based on an honor system. Now, in 2021, the Academy officially expelled, Kimmel for his actions, so we will never see him in attendance, which is probably a good thing this year or future years to come.
Our next Oscars banned celebrity is the late actor Carmine Corradi. He is best known for small parts in the last 2 films in the Godfather trilogy, and was handed a lifetime ban in 2004 for illegally circulating VHS copies of that year's Contenders that he had been sent as an Academy voter. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Corradi opened up about the situation, admitting that he got busted because he made the mistake of lending out his tapes, something he claims, quote, everybody did. A guy from the Academy called and says, Carmine, did somebody steal your screeners? Because they found them on the internet, Corradi recalled. And they called somebody and said, hey, what did you do? I'm in trouble here. While the case was investigated by the FBI and Corradi was hit with a copyright infringement lawsuit by Sony and Warner Brothers, he was eventually cleared of all his wrongdoings. The Academy wasn't so forgiving and maintained that he had violated his agreement to safeguard their screeners. Next up, we have Bill Cosby. A month after Bill was convicted of a In 2018, the Academy issued a permanent ban against him. Shortly after, Bill Cosby, who was once regarded as America's dad for his role in the sitcom The Cosby Show, was convicted in the case with ex-basketball player Andrea Constand in 2018. The Academy announced their decision to ban him in accordance with its newly reviewed standards of conduct. In an official statement, the Academy said, quote, "The board continues to encourage ethical standards that require members to uphold the Academy's values of respect for human dignity." Cosby, who served 3 years in prison before having his conviction overturned, never publicly reacted to the Academy's decision. The 85-year-old comedian is now facing more charges after 5 women filed another lawsuit against him in December 2022. Richard Gere is another famous actor who participated in a controversial Oscars incident, one which led to the Academy's decision to ban him from the entire awards. Back in 1993, Richard used his platform while presenting an award to criticize the Chinese government. His decision to not follow the script did not sit well with the Academy, who banned the famous actor for as many as 2 decades for changing his speech. "Studios are interested in the possibility of making huge profits," he told GQ, "but I'm still making the same films that I was making when I started. Small, interesting, character-driven, and narrative-driven stories. It has not impacted my life at all." Richard returned to the Oscars in 2013 when he joked by telling Huffington Post that apparently, "I've been rehabilitated. It seems if you stay around long enough, they forget that they have banned you." Taylor Swift will likely not be attending this year's Oscars despite being asked to join the Academy last year, alongside fellow singer The Weeknd. Taylor has an Eras Tour performance in Singapore on March 9th, the day before this year's Academy Awards, and that would be a very long flight and quick turnaround to make it in time. Recent Taylor Swift news includes an NFL player alleging she got enemy Kanye West kicked out of the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago. During the 2024 Super Bowl, Taylor Swift appeared on TV more than some of the players as the cameras kept cutting to her in her suite, filled with friends and the family of her boyfriend Travis Kelce, who was playing on the field. Plenty of other celebs were in attendance as well, including her rival Kanye West. According to a famous football player, the pop and country singer may have requested that the hip-hop musician be removed from the game entirely. One-time NFL player Brandon Marshall stated in his podcast Paper Route that Taylor may have been the reason that Kanye left the Super Bowl. Marshall tells an odd story on the latest episode of his series, one which even his co-host had not heard, explaining what happened between the two stars according to him, that is. So Kanye West pulls up to the Super Bowl. Kanye West buys a ticket right in front of Taylor Swift's booth, Marshall said on Paper Route. He also said that the rapper may have done so to make sure that anytime they were going to be showing Taylor on camera, Kanye's face was going to be there instead. Marshall went on to explain that Kanye had a mask on, which he called typical Kanye. The former football player then guessed that based on West's appearance, Taylor Swift gets angry. He then added, without seemingly any confirmation that the Grammy winner makes a call or two, everyone's involved, before adding that Kanye then gets kicked out of the stadium after her call. Now back to the Oscars. Jennifer Lawrence has been banned from the Oscars for her 2013 tripping on her dress moment. Just kidding, but it was incredibly embarrassing. When accepting her Oscar for Silver Linings Playbook, she tripped over her dress on the stage stairs on the way up to collect her award. In typical Jennifer Lawrence style, she laughed about it all before falling over on the red carpet the next year. In an interview with W Magazine, she says, "I was at the Oscars waiting to hear if my name was called, and I kept thinking, cakewalk, cakewalk, cakewalk. I thought, why is cakewalk stuck in my head? And then as I started to walk up the stairs and the fabric from my dress tucked under my feet, I realized my stylist had told me cakewalk, cakewalk, cakewalk. You're supposed to kick the dress out while you walk, and I totally forgot because I was thinking about cake, and that is why I fell." Another Oscars moment that raised concern was when the wrong movie was named Best Picture. When Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty announced the winner for Best Picture, they mistakenly said it was La La Land. But it was in fact Moonlight that had won. In a supremely cringe-inducing moment, Beatty was pushed aside as the correct slip of paper was brandished at the cameras desperately. It turns out Beatty had been given the Best Actress envelope instead of the Best Picture envelope. and Emma Stone won for La La Land. Hence the awkward mix-up. When Angelina Jolie won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar in 2000 for her role in Girl Interrupted, she caught the attention of viewers around the world when she kissed her brother. That's right, her biological brother, on the lips. Angelina's mom, Marshaline's close friend, who helped take care of the actress as a child, has opened up about the whole event, claiming it was nothing more than sisterly love. The day she kissed Jamie at the Oscars, she says it was the first day that their mom was treated for cancer. They left the hospital together and got ready together, she told Radar Online. No one in the world knew that they spent the day in the hospital. It was like, look where we are at now. But the world saw something insensual. It was meant to be, here we are. They only ever had each other. They had a very tight relationship with each other and their mother, she says. Our next awkward Oscars moment includes John Travolta. When announcing Idina Menzel to the stage, Travolta called her Adele Dazeem. John Travolta explained to Jimmy Kimmel what had caused the awkward gap, saying that he was shoved on stage 15 minutes early and the assistant told him at the last second that Idina's name had been changed to the phonetic spelling on the card. When John got on stage to announce, he had not been able to rehearse and stared at the card thinking, what is this name? I don't know this name. Luckily, Idina found it hilarious and even introduced John as Glom Gazingo at the Oscars the following year as a joke. Lastly, we have Rob Lowe. In 1989, perhaps the strangest Oscars moment occurred when an actress playing Snow White performed randomly on stage. The entire 11-minute performance shows Disney princess Snow White attending the Oscars and was incredibly weird for people to watch. What was even weirder was when actor Rob Lowe appeared on stage to sing a duet with the princess. Rob opened up to the New York Times about the whole debacle in 1992, saying, "Look, the Academy asked me to take that role, so I was a good soldier and I did it. You can't be your own manager and agent and soothsayer. You have to take risks." And on that one, I got shot in the foot.
First up on the list is a stunt pulled by Marlon Brando that is just as topical today as it was back in the early 1970s, 1973 to be exact. While Marlon Brando isn't the first person to decline their Oscar for various reasons, his snubbing of the ceremony following his iconic role in The Godfather was certainly one of the most memorable. Brando was considered a shoo-in for the winner of Best Actor, and he had already taken home the Best Actor statue once before for his role in the 1955 movie On the Waterfront. However, despite what many would consider this to be a huge honor for the actor, he decided to not even attend the ceremony. Instead, he sent Native American actor and activist Saheen Littlefeather on stage to decline the award on his behalf. He did it in protest of the way that Native Americans have been treated in the United States. The 1973 awards were the first time that the show had been broadcast internationally, and over 85 million people watched Littlefeather's passionate speech, which came just a month into the standoff between Native American activists and the cops after police killed a Lakota man at the Wounded Knee Reserve in South Dakota. Next up on the list is the 1974 Academy Awards ceremony, when an English teacher named Robert Opel stripped down and ran on stage while Elizabeth Taylor was being introduced for an award. So Robert ran on stage completely naked and sprinted around for a bit. After the stunt had occurred, the host at the time quipped, quote, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was almost bound to happen." But isn't it fascinating to think that probably the only laugh that man will ever get in his life is by stripping off and showing his shortcomings? Luckily for Opel, he was able to evade arrest, probably because everyone thought the stunt was hilarious. Instead, he was invited backstage to explain himself. Turns out the streaking was part of Opel's commentary on the way society has become too conformist. Opel, who owned a Los Angeles gallery known for showcasing homoerotic art, also streaked at the Los Angeles City Council meeting. Next up on the list is a horrifyingly cringy musical number that actor Rob Lowe did with a Snow White impersonator. This happened during the 1989 Oscars, which was considered a year of many firsts. The first time the ceremony used the famous red carpet, first time the term, quote, "and the Oscar goes to" was used, and the first time the show didn't have a host. Instead of a host opening the awards, it was Rob Lowe and Snow White singing an 11-minute version of Tina Turner's track Proud Mary, with the lyrics tweaked to fit the show's theme. The performance was super awkward and cringy, but the scandal part comes from it also being illegal. The performance prompted Disney Studios to file a copyright infringement lawsuit against the Academy for using Snow White's image without permission. On top of that, a group of 17 heavyweight actors wrote in to write a scathing letter to the Academy, calling the performance an embarrassment to the people who were nominated. Yikes. Next on the list is the Oscars that took place in the year 2000. After winning Best Supporting Actress for her role in Girl Interrupted, Angelina Jolie and her brother James Haven shocked the crowd super uncomfortably when they locked lips at the Vanity Fair after-party. During her acceptance speech for the role, Jolie shouted out her brother with the equally uncomfortable line, quote, "I'm in shock and I'm so in love with my brother right now. He just held me and said he loved me and I know he's so happy for me, and thank you for that." The kiss immediately sparked headlines, which Jolie called pathetic. She later said that the siblings had been visiting their mother, who had cancer, in the hospital that day, and the kiss and declaration of love had just been part of her reaction to the day's emotional ups and downs. Next up on the docket is the time that Bjork made international headlines for her bizarre and iconic dress at the 2001 Academy Awards ceremony. While the dress certainly made a statement on its own, the quirky artist took it one step further by pretending to lay an egg on the red carpet. She had a bunch of ostrich eggs and she just left them all over the red carpet, and reportedly also left one in the women's bathroom while inside the ceremony. Her outfit was so memorable that it is now a part of an exhibit at the Museum of Modern Art. Next on the list is the 2003 Oscars, and more specifically when Michael Moore took to the stage after his win for the Best Documentary category. While we've all heard the music start to kick up when the acceptance speech goes on for a tad too long, Michael Moore was well within his time slot when he had to be cut off. That's because, like the political commentator he is, he directly attacked George W. Bush for the unnecessary invasion of Iraq. Quote, "We live in a time where we have a man sending us to a war for fictitious reasons. Shame on you, Mr. Bush, shame on you." He was met with boos from the audience and was quickly played off stage. Ironic, honestly, especially when Michael Moore was criticizing presidents long before it was okay to do so, and the same people who booed him off stage ribbed future presidents at other award shows. Just shows the shallowness of the whole thing. Next up is the 2015 Oscars when John Travolta hopped onto the Oscar stage to introduce Idina Menzel, who voiced Princess Elsa in the Disney Frozen movie. People were obsessed with Frozen during this time, and it instantly became a classic in the Disney canon. The Frozen song Let It Go had been nominated for Best Original Song, which meant that Idina would be performing the song for the ceremony. When John Travolta was set to introduce her, he inexplicably said, quote, "The wickedly talented, one and only Adele Dazeem." Travolta later said that seconds before he was set to go on stage, he ran into Goldie Hawn and missed the announcement that the producers had changed the spelling of Menzel's name on the teleprompter to a phonetic version that was supposed to be easier to pronounce. Luckily, Menzel was a pretty good sport about the whole thing. She reunited with Travolta at the next year's ceremony. Next up is the infamous 2017 Best Picture announcement mix-up. At the very end of the ceremony, Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty took to the stage to reveal the night's big-ticket Best Picture winner. All was going smoothly until Beatty went to read the winner. He looked noticeably confused, and some wondered if he was having a hard time seeing the teleprompter. He held the card out to Dunaway, who assumed he was changing up the script and allowing her to read out the winner. She announced La La Land, and the cast and crew filed on stage to celebrate. Backstage, Academy accountants from PricewaterhouseCoopers sprung into action and alerted production that the wrong envelope had been given and that Moonlight actually had won Best Picture. Stage managers scurried on stage to correct the gaffe. So what happened? Turns out Beatty had been handed an extra Best Actress envelope, which had gone to Emma Stone from La La Land, instead of the one labeled Best Picture. A production error earlier in the day meant that they had run out of time to rehearse the last few awards prior to showtime, which could have contributed to the mistake. Oopsies. Next on the list is the 2020 Oscars, where the much-deserving film Parasite had just been announced as the Best Picture of the year. It marked the first time that a non-English language film took home the top honor. When the cast and crew headed on stage to accept the award, which was one of the 6 the movie won through the night, co-producer Kok Sin-ae first took the mic and spoke for 45 seconds before turning things over to Mikey Lee, the film's other producer. But before Lee got to deliver her speech, the lights went down on the stage and cameras focused on Jane Fonda, who was slated to deliver the night's closing remarks. The audience was instantly outraged, and stars like Tom Hanks and Charlize Theron, who were sitting in the front row, started chanting "Up, up" to persuade the showrunners to turn the attention back to Parasite. Luckily, the cheers worked and Lee was able to deliver her remarks, but it didn't stop tons of outrage from coming out in reaction to the rude dismissal. And now, finally, we come to the Oscars that were literally just held a few days ago with another big scandal. As Chris Rock took to the stage to present the award for Best Documentary, the comedian made a few jabs at Hollywood and its actors. One such jab was toward Jada Pinkett Smith, who suffers from alopecia. Basically, it was a joke aimed at her being bald, to which Jada's husband, Will Smith obviously, rushes the stage and slaps the words right out of Chris Rock's mouth. Chris was obviously super shocked, and Will Smith sat back in his seat but shouted back at Chris not to talk badly on his wife. Everyone in the crowd was super stunned, obviously. A fight has never broken out on the Oscars stage before. And it was just super sweet chicken soup for my middle class soul.
And at number 10, Jennifer Lawrence. This is one you know we had to include. Jen is known for her quirky and down-to-earth personality and not taking herself too seriously. She's also quite the klutz, which she proved after she tripped while walking up to the stage to accept her Oscar for Best Actress in 2013. After she got up to the stage, the crowd gave her a standing ovation, and she said, quote, "You guys are just standing because you feel bad that I fell, and that's really embarrassing." And this isn't the only time that Jennifer has fallen. She actually fell at the Oscars again while on the red carpet a few years later. This Oscars klutziness has caused some to think she's just faking it all for press.
At number 9, Hattie McDaniel. Back in 1940, legendary actress Hattie McDaniel was nominated for an Academy Award for her work in Gone with the Wind, and she actually ended up winning the Oscar. However, because of segregation at the time, she was almost unable to accept the award because she was black, and they almost didn't let her attend the ceremony. Back then, the venue where the award ceremony was held was a whites-only establishment, so people from the studio that made the film had to pull a lot of strings to get the actress in the building, and even then she wasn't allowed to sit with the rest of the cast of Gone with the Wind. Instead, she was seated in the far corner of the venue away from everyone else, but as long as she was there and able to accept the award, that was enough. She made history that night and caused scandal, but it just showed Hollywood that racism will never win.
And at number 8, Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. The whole world fell in love with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper when they were starring in the movie A Star Is Born. The on-screen chemistry between the pair was so amazing, many fans thought there was definitely a real connection between them. The rumors about these two got even crazier when the pair performed a ballad from the movie at the 2019 Oscars, and the chemistry during the performance was hard to deny. Lady Gaga had also recently broke up with her fiance Christian Carino around this time, leading many to think it was because of jealousy. And then during their performance, Bradley's longtime girlfriend Irina Shayk was sitting in the audience, which made things even more awkward. The whole situation got a ton of buzz for the movie, but might have had real-world consequences as Irina and Bradley split up shortly after.
At number 7, John Travolta. Now, I wouldn't really call this one a scandal per se, but it did have a lot of people talking and laughing about it, so I just had to include it. In 2014, John Travolta created one heck of a meme, and you probably remember it. At the Oscars that year, Idina Menzel was supposed to perform Let It Go from the movie Frozen, which was kind of the hottest movie at the time, and John Travolta was supposed to introduce her to the stage. Well, instead of introducing Idina, he instead welcomed someone named Adele Dazeem.
Gorgeously empowering song, Let It Go, from the Oscar-winning animated movie Frozen. Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem.
This mishap was incredibly embarrassing for both parties, as it created memes within minutes and was even the subject of a John Travolta name generator where it would scrabble your name like Adele Dazeem. Even though it was super cringy, there's actually an explanation for the whole unfortunate ordeal. According to John, Idina's name had been changed on the teleprompter at the last minute so that it was spelled phonetically because they didn't want to risk him messing it up. John hadn't rehearsed with the name spelt like that, so rather than the change help him out, it actually just made things so much worse, and Adele Dazeem was born.
And at number 6, Eminem. In 2003, the Oscars category for Best Original Song was jam-packed with big contenders, including the fan-favorite Eminem track Lose Yourself from 8 Mile. Lose Yourself actually ended up winning the award, and nobody was more shocked than the rapper himself. After he won, Eminem did not get up on stage, and one of his other collaborators accepted the award on his behalf, saying that Eminem was not able to make it that night. But the truth is that Eminem was so convinced he would not win the award, he didn't bother to show up. In an interview later, he was asked about that night, and Marshall admitted that he was actually asleep when it was announced that he won, which I'm sure the Oscars were not happy about.
At number 5, Ryan Seacrest. This one is more of a personal scandal than a high-profile one, but I'm gonna tell you about it because my boy Ryan was super hurt by it. Imagine being invited to one of Hollywood's biggest events just to get kicked out moments after you arrive. Well, this is basically what happened to Ryan Seacrest as he was invited to the Oscars award ceremony one year and was kicked out of the awards show shortly afterwards. According to Ryan, he was invited to the award show to provide the segue from the pre-show event to the main award show, which in itself is a pretty big honor, but after he completed his task, he went to go find a seat because he assumed that he would be staying for the rest of the show, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. While he was looking for a seat, he was approached by the event's ushers and managers and was told, quote, "Mr. Seacrest, your car is ready." He was a little confused and was like, no, what do you mean? I just opened the show," to which they replied with, quote, "We don't have a ticket for you, Ryan." He continued recounting that experience saying, quote, "They put me in a car and they drove me out, and the next thing I know, I'm on Hollywood Boulevard going away from the Oscars, and the LAPD are on the corner, the windows down, and they say, 'Hey Ryan, you're going the wrong way,' and I say, 'No, I'm going the right way.' They sent me home to watch on television like everyone else." He was pretty butthurt about it and maybe still holds a grudge for that, but at least he was able to get comfy at home.
And at number 4, the 1974 Oscar streaker. This one's a little less known, but since most award shows are live broadcasts, it's understandable that some people might try and take advantage. That's exactly what happened at the 1974 Oscars when a man decided to run naked through the broadcast. The man even flashed a peace sign while he ran past the presenter, David Niven. Niven was hardly fazed and responded by saying, quote, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was almost bound to happen, but isn't it fascinating to think that probably the only laugh that man will ever get in his life is by stripping off and showing his shortcomings." And honestly, probably the shadiest thing that I've ever heard.
At number 3, Sean Penn. Actor Sean Penn got into a bit of a scandal at the 2015 Academy Awards. The actor was announcing the award for Best Picture, but before reading the name of the winner, Alejandro G. Iñárritu, he made a joke that definitely did not land and actually offended quite a few people. Before announcing Alejandro as the winner, Sean joked saying, quote, "Who gave this son of a B a green card?" Sean's joke was seen as highly offensive and racist because of Alejandro's background, as one person online explained, quote, "Struggles people endure for immigration justice are not punchlines." As Alejandro is Mexican, the joke definitely was uncalled for and inappropriate. Some defended Sean, saying that he had only made the joke because they had been friends for about a decade, but others made the argument that, quote, "A director of color can't accept an Oscar without being the butt of a racist joke." The award show was supposed to be a scandal-free evening, but instead, news outlets took to broadcasting Sean's offensive remark.
And at number 2, Marissa Tomei. Before we had the infamous Moonlight La La Land mix-up, there was a popular conspiracy theory going around claiming that Marissa Tomei did not actually win her 1993 Oscar. Instead, the presenter just said the wrong name and everyone went along with it. This theory was started because many were shocked to see that Tomei had won instead of her well-established competition. As well, following the event, The Hollywood Reporter printed a blind item about rumors that she hadn't really won. They claimed the presenter, Jack Palance, was too intoxicated to read it right, so he just read the last name as the winner. It was such a big rumor the Academy had to deny it many times. After the La La Land mix-up, we know that if she didn't really win, someone would have made it right.
And finally, in at number 1, Sacha Baron Cohen. Sacha Baron Cohen is quite the jokester and is known for his wild characters. From Bruno to Borat, he seems to almost always be in character, and this was seemingly no exception at the Academy Awards in 2012. Sacha was at the event and walked the red carpet in character as Admiral General Shahbaz al-Din from his film The Dictator, and along with being accompanied by 2 bodyguards, he had a prop with him, a golden urn filled with the pretend ashes of North Korean Premier Kim Jong-il. While walking the red carpet, he stopped to be interviewed by Ryan Seacrest, and then this happened.
The interesting thing is it's actually made by South Korea. No, sorry. You've got Kim Jong. You've got Kim Jong-il.
Sacha dumped the ashes on Ryan, ruining his suit and causing quite a scene at the event. Weeks later, we found out that Sacha's original target was actually George Clooney, but since it was a pretty big night for him, they skipped Clooney and the unfortunate prank landed on Ryan instead. After that, Ryan purposely steered clear of Sacha, refusing to interview him, and the Academy has been vigilant of Sacha's stunts, even though they haven't really been able to stop them since.
In at number 10, Roman Polanski.
And the Oscar goes to Roman Polanski for The Pianist.
Back in 2003, Roman Polanski had won the Oscar for directing The Pianist. However, due to him not showing up, Harrison Ford had to not only present the award, but accept it on his behalf. It's amazing that Polanski was still even considered at all for this category. After pleading guilty to having an unlawful relationship with an underage woman, he fled the US before he could be sentenced. So his status of refusal to accept the award probably came from the fact that he legally cannot be in the United States or else face jail time. He's like, no, but I'm good. We're sure that's why you're good. In at number 9, Woody Allen.
The Academy congratulates Woody Allen and accepts this award on his behalf.
Thank you.
Woody Allen has won a total of 4 Oscars but has only attended the event once. That clip was from 1978 where Allen won the Oscar for directing Annie Hall, but due to his refusal to accept, they had to accept it on his behalf. The only time that Woody Allen touched the stage at the Oscars was in 2002. It was less than 6 months following the attacks of September 11th, and Allen wanted to tell the audience that the Big Apple was still a wonderful place to make movies. After the awards, Allen said, "I have no regard for that kind of ceremony. I just don't think they know what they're doing. When you see who wins those things or who doesn't win them, you can see how meaningless this Oscar thing is." Well said, Woody, well said. You creep. In at number 8, Paul Newman.
Ladies and gentlemen, accepting the award for Paul Newman, the president of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, Mr. Robert Wise.
Paul Newman had a very understandable beef with the Academy after being nominated for the award of Best Actor 6 times and never winning. Yet year after year, Paul showed up because he was nominated and patiently waited again and again for his big win. By 1987, Newman had 2 honorary Oscars and 6 nominations to his name before finally winning for his role in The Color of Money. Although the one time that Paul actually won, he didn't show up. Later he told the Associated Press, "It's like chasing a beautiful woman for 80 years. Finally she relents and you say, 'I'm terribly sorry, I'm tired.'" I love these statements, like, damn, again, I'll say it. Well said, Paul. Well said. In at number 7, Banksy.
Here are the nominees for Best Documentary Feature. Exit Through the Gift Shop, Banksy and Jamie DeCruz.
For those of you who don't know who Banksy is, he's an anonymous British street artist that is known around the world for his sometimes very political pieces. He's done everything from graffiti to full exhibits showcasing his work. A film was even made about him in 2010 called Exit Through the Gift Shop. It was a documentary that followed around some of the top street artists as they went through their process and tried to avoid the authorities while doing so. Banksy, being the anonymous character that he is, did appear in the film, but his face was hidden and his voice was altered to protect his identity. When the film was nominated for an Oscar, Banksy agreed to attend, with his only request being that they do not reveal his identity. Well, the Academy did not see the value in that and refused to accommodate his request. So instead of showing up to the Oscars, Banksy did what he does best. A couple days before the event, this mural suddenly appeared in Los Angeles. The mural equates the Hollywood elite to the Galactic Empire from Star Wars. And I just love the stormtroopers working the cameras while the Oscar statue is altered to appear in the image of a true artist. More specifically, a Banksy. In at number 6, Eminem.
Goes to... Woo! The Oscar goes to Eminem, Jeff Bass, and Luis Resto for Lose Yourself.
In 2003, the category for Best Original Song was jam-packed with big contenders. Eminem's Lose Yourself from the movie 8 Mile was against Burn It Blue from Frida, Father and Daughter from the Wild Thornberrys movie, The Hands That Built America from Gangs of New York, which had Bono writing on it, and I Move On from the movie Chicago. All of these had amazing musicians behind each track, to the point where even Eminem himself didn't think that he was going to win. Eminem thought the Oscars were just for actors, so number 1, he thought, why would I win this? And number 2, he thought, why would I show up for that? In an interview later on, he was asked about that night, and Marshall admitted that he was actually asleep when he won the Oscar. Instead, his co-writer Luis Resto had to accept the award on his behalf. In at number 5, Jean-Luc Godard.
As you know, the master, unfortunately, can't be with us here tonight.
For those of you who don't know who Jean-Luc Godard is, he's a very talented filmmaker from Switzerland that has been creating since 1950. In his early days as a film critic, Godard took aim at the way that mainstream French cinema had a tradition of quality, instead of focusing on innovation and experimentation. In late 2010, the Academy wanted to give Godard an honorary Oscar, although there was a slight issue. Jean-Luc never answered their calls, and when asked during an interview what this honorary award meant to him, Godard said, "Nothing. If the Academy likes to do it, let them do it. But I think it's strange. I asked myself, which of my films have they seen? Did they actually know my films? And later on during that same interview, he was asked why he never attended, and to that, Godard said that he doesn't have a visa to fly into the US, nor does he want to apply for one, adding, "And I don't want to fly for that long." Fair enough, Jean-Luc, fair enough. In at number 4, Katharine Hepburn.
There is Katharine Hepburn and Golden Pond.
Oh, how I love that awkward moment during all of these Oscar win announcements where the presenter says the person's name and then there's no movement and now they just have to awkwardly stand there as someone else comes up to accept it. Hepburn has hated the Oscars for most of her career. She has been nominated for 12 Oscars and won 4 of those, although every time she has chosen to avoid the night altogether. The only time that she decided to attend was in 1974. Katharine had been asked to present producer Lawrence Weingarten with a Thalberg Award, and during the ceremony though, Katharine said, "I'm very happy that I didn't hear anyone call out, 'It's about time.' I am living proof that a person can wait 41 years to be unselfish." I mean, you gotta give it up to this strong leading lady for that kind of commitment as well. In at number 3, Dudley Nichols. Unfortunately, I wish we could have some sort of clip for Dudley like we did with everyone else, but the reality is, Dudley is the OG of refusing Oscars. In fact, in 1935, he was the very first person to ever refuse the award. Dudley had won Best Screenplay for the film The Informer, a film about the Irish War of Independence. His reason for boycotting the event was over an ongoing dispute that Dudley had with the Academy and the Writers Guild. The LA Times even recorded that he tried to give back his award, like he was returning a pair of jeans. Eventually, he was able to return the award, and with it he attached a note. The note said, "It would be to turn my back on nearly 1,000 members who ventured everything in the long drawn out fight for a genuine writers organization." I mean, how powerful is that? Like, you remember when people used to stand for something? You go, Dudley, you go. In at number 2, George C. Scott.
Oh my god. The winner is George C. Scott.
Accepting the coveted.
Much like Dudley, George had a real problem with the Academy and the way they operated. In 1961, he received a nomination for Best Supporting Actor, but he told the Academy that he didn't want it. Furthermore, he told them that he disagreed on the principle of the award. George thought that the Oscars were simply a competition that pitted fellow actors against each other. Because of this controversy with the Academy, George would not be nominated again until 1971. However, the first year that they had him back in the nominations, this time it was for the Best Actor category, and sure enough, he won. And not only did he refuse to accept the award or any of the nominations before that, he didn't show up at all. He went on again to insult the ceremony further, calling it, and I quote, "a 2-hour meat parade, a public display with contrived suspense for economic reasons." Powerful George C. Scott. I love that he decided to just dig his heels in further with his stance against the Oscars. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Marlon Brando.
Hello, my name is Sasheen Littlefeather. I'm Apache.
Marlon Brando truly is the Godfather. Not only does he not show up to accept his award, but instead he sent a Native American woman to refuse it for him. You can see in the clip that the presenter extends the statue out to her and she just holds up her hand like, I'm good, chief, I'm good. And the woman said that her name was Sasheen Littlefeather, and at the time she was a little known actress and president of the National Native American Affirmative Image Committee. Brando believed that the Native American image had been completely disrespected by the film industry, so his reason for refusing the award was due to the treatment of American Indians, but the crowd could not accept that. Midway through Littlefeather's speech, the celebrity audience members started booing her, and then later on making very crude comments towards her. Yet regardless of what they thought, this speech remains as one of the most powerful moments in Oscar history.
Coming in at 10, Willem Dafoe. Dafoe is a legendary actor with 2 Oscar nominations under his belt for both At Eternity's Gate and the incredible Florida Project. However, his quest for a 3rd Oscar nod has been halted during a time when most were expecting him to at least get a chance to claim the big prize. Dafoe starred last year in the horror movie The Lighthouse, which followed 2 lighthouse keepers who start to lose their sanity when a storm strands them on a remote island where they are stationed. The movie received universal acclaim, with critics highlighting the performances of both leads, Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. However, sadly, the Academy didn't feel the same way and snubbed the talented actor. Could be just because they hate horror movies. Coming in at 9, Taron Egerton. At the 2020 Golden Globes, Taron Egerton took home the award for Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy for his role as Elton John in the movie Rocketman. The film follows Elton in his early days as a prodigy at the Royal Academy of Music through his musical partnership with Tobin. However, unlike Rami Malek, who portrayed Freddie Mercury in the movie Bohemian Rhapsody and went on to win the Best Actor Oscar last year, Egerton didn't even receive a nomination. In at 8, Christian Bale. Last year, Christian Bale appeared alongside Matt Damon in the drama movie Ford vs Ferrari, a movie which follows a determined team of American engineers and designers led by automotive visionary Carroll Shelby and his British driver Ken Miles, who are dispatched by Henry Ford II and Lee Iacocca with the mission of building the Ford GT40, a new racing car with the potential to finally defeat the perennially dominant Ferrari racing team at the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans race in France. Now, Bale in the past has been nominated for 4 Oscars, with him taking home the Oscar once with the 2011 Best Supporting Actor win for The Fighter. Put him in serious contention once again, however sadly he didn't get the nod this time around. Coming in at 7, Nicole Kidman. Last year, Nicole Kidman appeared alongside Charlize Theron and Margot Robbie in the biographical drama Bombshell, a movie based upon the accounts of several women at Fox News who set out to expose CEO Roger Ailes for sexual harassment. The film as a whole received mixed reviews, however critics praised the performances of the cast, particularly Theron, Kidman, Robbie and John Lithgow. At the Golden Globe Awards, the movie received 2 nominations for Theron and Robbie, and 4 at the 26th Screen Actors Guild Awards for Theron, Robbie and Kidman. However, when the Oscars announced the nominations, only Theron and Robbie received a nod, with Nicole Kidman being completely forgotten about. You never put Kidman in a corner. In at 6, Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy is back and better than ever, apparently. Last year he starred in the biographical comedy Dolomite Is My Name, with Murphy starring as filmmaker Rudy Ray Moore, best known for portraying the character of Dolomite in both his stand-up routine and a series of blaxploitation films, starting with Dolomite in 1975. The film received hugely positive reviews from critics, with folks praising Murphy's comeback performance, with it being his first film in 3 years. It was also chosen by both the National Board of Review and Time magazine as one of the 10 best films of the year. At the 77th Golden Globe Awards, the film was also nominated for Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, with Murphy also nabbing a nomination for Best Actor. However, like the rest of our list, Murphy came up short at the Oscars, with the Academy seemingly snubbing him. In at 5, Lupita Nyong'o. Now, Lupita Nyong'o didn't just give one stellar performance in 2019, she gave 2 in the wickedly terrifying Jordan Peele movie Us. The film followed Adelaide Wilson and her family, who were attacked by a group of menacing doppelgangers. Now, Lupita played Adelaide and of course the doppelganger, and she was absolutely incredible in both roles. But sadly, the Academy didn't agree and denied the actress a second nomination after she won Best Supporting Actress for 12 Years a Slave back in 2013. In at 4, Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler received very rare critical acclaim for his performance in Uncut Gems, a movie that follows Howard Ratner, a jeweler and gambling addict in New York City's Diamond District, who gets in over his head with loan sharks and must retrieve an expensive gem he purchased in order to pay off his debts. Now, Sandler campaigned hard for a nomination, and longtime fans were there right alongside him, hoping the comedian could earn his very first nomination. However, Sandler sadly got no love from the Academy, upsetting a lot of fans and the movie. To be fair, it's hard to separate Sandler from his past, such as 50 First Dates, Happy Gilmore, and all the other he's done. In at number 3, Awkwafina. Now, this one is the most frustrating in my opinion, because how do you go from winning a Golden Globe to not even getting nominated for an Oscar? I just don't understand it. It reminds me of the time the Queen, Madonna, won the Golden Globe for Evita and then was snubbed for the Oscar when we all know she should have been nominated and should have won. Just saying. Anyway, Awkwafina starred in The Farewell, a movie that follows a family who, upon learning their grandmother has only a short while left to live, decides not to tell her and schedules a family gathering before she dies. The actress was praised for her performance and, as I previously mentioned, even won the Golden Globe, making her the first Asian actress to take home the Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy category, which is absolutely insane. But sadly, and for some unknown reason, the Oscars didn't even look her way. No one cares about the Oscars anyway, it's all about the Golden Globes. Coming in at 2, Robert De Niro. Fans were of course upset when legendary actor Robert De Niro also missed out on an Oscar nod, but it wasn't too much of a surprise considering he also failed to get a nomination at the Golden Globes Globes or Screen Actors Guild. He starred in The Irishman, where he played Frank Sheeran. The film follows Frank, a truck driver who becomes a hitman involved with mobster Russell Bufalino and his crime family, including his time working for the powerful team star Jimmy Hoffa. The film made waves for its incredible de-aging technology, with the older actors looking more youthful than ever. However, it became clear after a handful of failed nominations that the two-time Oscar winner in a critically praised role was about to miss out on an Oscar nod, due to being overshadowed by his supporting co-stars Joe Pesci and Al Pacino. Could also be because the film was about 3.5 hours long and no one has time to watch that. And finally coming in at number 1, J-Lo. It was widely predicted that Jennifer Lopez was going to receive a Best Supporting Actress nomination at the Oscars, as she did at the Golden Globes. The actress was of course nominated for her performance in Hustlers, where she played a stripper named Ramona Vega, with the plot following a crew of strippers in New York City who begin to steal money by drugging stock traders and CEOs who visit their club, and then running up their credit cards. J-Lo is absolutely phenomenal in this movie, with the actress even bringing home Screen Actors Guild, Critics' Choice and Golden Globe nominations. However, the Oscars turned a blind eye to the star's performance and snubbed her, with outcry immediately pouring out on social media. Lopez's snub particularly upset Tyler Perry, who said, I quote, "I'm upset, man. J-Lo didn't get nominated. Are you kidding me? She should have gotten nominated." I honestly couldn't agree more. Hustlers was by far one of my favorite movies of 2019, and that is saying something. I honestly thought it was gonna be and it was one of the best things I've ever seen. And J-Lo needs an Oscar.
So starting off our list today at number 10, we have Rachel Zegler. Sometimes it's probably better to stay quiet about certain issues, and that was definitely the case when it comes to Rachel Zegler. So if you don't recall, just before last year's ceremony, Rachel would find herself not being invited to the show, and in the process she went on to shade the Academy for it. Eventually the Academy wanted to make things right, so they asked her to join presenter Jacob Elordi on the stage. However, once she got on the stage, she decided to shade the Academy once more by saying, "Dreams do come true," really fast. Her comment was definitely a reference to her post that she made just a week before the show, when she responded to a fan who said, "Can't wait to see what you'll be wearing to the Oscars." Rachel then responded by saying, "I'm not invited, so sweatpants and my boyfriend's flannel." After an outcry spread across social media, the actor would explain that she tried every method possible to score a ticket, but she was unsuccessful. Well, at least she did make it to the show, but that will probably be the last show she can attend for a while. Number 9, Chris Rock. You know, Chris Rock probably should have scored himself a ticket to this year's Oscar ceremony if he just did one thing: be a better man and let everything in the past remain in the past. After a year of remaining silent about the incident that occurred in 2022, he has finally opened up about the incident, and I'm going to be honest, his comments should have come right away. Coming a complete year after the incident occurred is uncalled for and just a little bit childish, especially since he's chosen to take the high road for so long, and now everything just seems a little too calculated and not right. And if the Oscars wants to eliminate any drama from this year's show, they should be asking Chris Rock not to attend. In preparation for Chris Rock's upcoming special on Netflix, the comedian is set to talk about the incident that dominated much of the headlines last year. According to Wall Street Journal, the comedian's references how much it hurt, and he also pokes fun at Will Smith when he quipped, even in animated movies, "I'm a zebra and he's an effing shark." But to make fun of the incident isn't really funny, and Will had to even go through therapy, so this just isn't okay, and Chris should honestly just do better. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Number 8, Russell Crowe. Even though Russell Crowe is an Oscar-winning actor, director, and musician, we probably won't be seeing him at this year's Grammys ceremony. And it's not really surprising, as Russell's temper has made more than a few headlines over the years, and since nobody really knows if the actor can truly behave himself, as the actor's temper has landed him in hot water, he ended up getting a felony charge for it. So Russell's temper has had a reputation for years, as he has a tendency to take things a little too far, and his reputation has now earned him a reputation as an actor who is difficult to work with. So back in 2004, Russell's behavior would completely be out of hand after he got riled up in a hotel lobby, and he ended up injuring a clerk behind the lobby desk. Then in 2016, Azealia Banks even filed a police report accusing Russell's violence to be excessive, as he once spit on her. And back in 2002, he even shoved Malcolm Gary against a wall and cursed him out because of his acceptance speech being cut too short. So why would the
the Academy a risk inviting someone who could cause another Chris Rock and Will Smith altercation. Number 7. Ben Affleck. Well, it's definitely not the Academy banning Ben Affleck from the ceremony this year, but it's most likely Jennifer Lopez trying to protect her husband from any more gloomy memes. As let's not forget, when we all sat down to watch the Grammys a couple weeks ago, Ben was captured a couple times on camera looking miserable. And then when we thought it couldn't get any worse, we then all saw J-Lo snap at her husband out of nowhere. But honestly, the whole show just looked like Ben was dragged to a work thing with his wife, and he truly had no interest in attending the event whatsoever. Now, with the Oscars just around the corner, J-Lo definitely doesn't want any more people questioning her and Ben's relationship. So she's probably gonna make sure Ben stays at home and watches the ceremony in his sweatpants for this moment, as the star just appears sad and J-Lo is done with the misinterpretation. Number 6. Sean Penn. When Sean Penn decided to get a little political last year at the Grammys, it kinda has him in a hot seat, as he promised to boycott the Academy if the Ukrainian president wasn't part of the show's program. But this hasn't been the actor's first controversial moment, as back in 2022 he doubled down on his comments that made fun of feminine men. When he sat down in an interview with The Independent, he would tell the newspaper, "I am in the club that believes that men in American culture have been widely feminized. I don't think that being a brute or having insensitivity or disrespect for women is anything to do with masculinity, or ever did. But I don't think in order to be fair to women, we should become them." When Sean was then asked to clarify his comments, he would then say, "I think men have, in my view, become quite feminized. I have these strong women in my life who do not take masculinity as a sign of oppression towards them. And with how the world is changing, the Academy just shouldn't allow people who don't adapt to change and accept others for who they are." Number 5. Morgan Freeman. In 2018, it would be brought to light that a young production assistant thought she had landed the job of her dreams when in the summer of 2015, she started working on Going in Style, a bank heist comedy starring Morgan Freeman. But the job then quickly developed into several months of harassment. She then later told CNN that Morgan subjected her to unwanted touching and comments about her figure and clothes on a near daily basis. She also claimed that Morgan constantly would rest his hands on her lower back or rub her lower back, and in one incident he even tried to pull up her skirt. And it said that Morgan's inappropriate behavior was not limited to that one movie set, because according to sources who spoke with CNN, a woman who was a senior member of the production staff of the movie Now You See Me in 2012 claimed that her and her female assistant on numerous occasions were approached by Morgan, who solicited comments about their bodies. And considering what happened last year, the Academy definitely wants a show that's quiet and no one really talks about, so we probably won't be seeing Morgan Freeman there this year. Number 4. Ricky Gervais. It's clear that Ricky Gervais will never be a host for the Oscars, as he's too much of a risk, even with the comedian himself revealing that he would never host the esteemed film award show because he wouldn't be allowed to do what he wanted. Now, Ricky has hosted the Golden Globes 5 times now, but he knows the rules would be very different for the Oscars, and he's just not interested in doing so, as he knows he would find himself being cancelled halfway through the show like other celebrities have. He continued to go on to say, "They'd never let me do what I wanted. That's why the Globes got me. They said I can write my own jokes, say what I want, no rehearsal. The Oscars would never. And if the Oscars said that, then I'd do it, but that would never happen." But they certainly let Chris Rock do it, so honestly it's probably best for Ricky to stay away from the mic and the show, as he might get a little controversial if he was invited. Number 3. Chris Brown. Back in 2022, Chris Brown would reveal the reason behind him not attending any award shows anytime soon, and that's because the Academy has banned him from being in attendance to any type of show going forward. The R&B superstar revealed that he's been banned from award shows, and he even made a revelation about it while he was sharing a video to his Instagram from one of his concerts in New Mexico, saying that he would have quit the industry a long time ago if it wasn't for his fans. But do you even have a lot of fans left to begin with? Despite his ability to sell out concerts not in Canada or America, may I add, not only will the Academy not let him attend the ceremony, but he is also not allowed to perform due to his violent behavior. Let's face it, he only got a Grammy nomination this year, not because his album was popping off, it was because the Grammys didn't want to deal with his wild outbursts from the star if he didn't receive a nomination in the first place, because the world still isn't over what he did to Rihanna and the other woman following.
Number 2. Quentin Tarantino. When news broke that Quentin Tarantino convinced Uma Thurman into driving an unsafe car during the filming of Kill Bill, which resulted in a crash, the director would soon call it the biggest regret of his life. Soon after, reports soon started to come saying not only that, but that he also spat on Thurman during filming, and he even had a pretty physical altercation with her, and it said he also did the same thing to Diane Kruger in a scene in Inglourious Bastards. And with it, many people started to question whether it was time to cancel Quentin Tarantino or just not include him in the Oscars. Even with his film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood being very controversial, it provoked considerable unease as it would take on the gruesome subject following the passing of Sharon Tate, among others who fell into the hands of the Manson family. His interest in violence against women is just so strange and unusual, and by celebrating it, it would just be wrong. And coming in number 1 today, we have Seth MacFarlane. If you watched the Oscars back in 2013, then you know the whole night was just a total call-off. Now, to have Seth MacFarlane host the Oscars, it was pretty shocking to begin with due to his animated show being pretty controversial. The Academy should have known that the night would have been pretty controversial to begin with. But with saying that, I don't think any of us saw the show being turned into complete misogyny after Seth decided he was going to prove that he could sing in his opening number. But with it, he did it in such a controversial way, as the comedian went on to showcase the most misogynistic song in history that he called We Saw Your Chest, which named actresses who have stripped down for on-screen roles, mentioning every female from Meryl Streep to Naomi Watts. He also went on to enlist an entire choir of men to join in the rousing chorus. And if you caught the show, then you know Charlize Theron's face said it all when the cameras panned over to her and you could see her unimpressed face as she hid with her hand. To make matters even worse, he made jokes about women getting sick so they could get into shape for the awards show, as well as making Chris Brown and Rihanna jokes, which just wasn't cool, let's face it.